Good morning.
You know, I'm always afraid when we go through that tunnel, we're going to hit one of the walls. It scares the hell out of me.
It almost reminds me of a proctology, scanning when they put the little that tube up your ass.
Oh, I had one of those. I didn't like it.
I've avoided it so far.
Yeah, this is great start to the show. Let's talk about assholes.
Fuck yeah.
Okay. I don't like anything probed up my ass either. So, hey, listen, I join the crowd.
And by the way, what we were talking about before the show, I do want to state that exposure to toxic things, Don is toxic.
Well, I do have moments.
Them sons of bitches.
Those sons of bitches. I'm actually planning to do a nice little image quote thing for each person on the website. And each one's going to say like, I love doing these shows because this, that, and the other thing. And then Don's just going to go, you sons of bitches. That's all I was going to say next to Don's head. You sons of bitches in quotation marks.
Don,
but
when the time comes that we send you off to another world, I hope I can be down for your eulogy, because I'll be standing on the podium going, and Don always told all you people out there, yeah, damn sons of bitches.
It should be your
not that I don't love you, okay? Not that I don't love you, Chris, but actually I hope you go before me.
Thank you fucking very much.
Oh shit. Yeah. Where do I go from there? I don't know, Tom.
I don't know, but
where do we go?
Certainly don't send me any more links to this show.
I think I'm done, Gary. Oh, and what I was telling you before the show too is I'm still trying to, because I got a lawyer now, and I'm finally going to fight him because that's bullshit.
Oh, in case anybody's interested,
the VA.
We're talking about the Veterans Administration. Yeah, when I was the commander of the Hollywood chapter, Military Order of the Purple Heart, I was also one of the chapter service officers. Okay, and in those days, and this was back in the early 2000s, we had a lot of guys and some ladies that were coming in that had been wounded over in the sandbox. Okay. And I recommended every one of them, even if they thought they were cool, get yourself down to the Veterans Administration. Okay. Get down there right away, file a claim. Okay. File a claim, because you got to be in the system for the system to work for you. And I'll tell you what, they dicked with me quite a bit when I went in. I came out of the Army with 50% disability right off the bat because of my wounds. Now, back in those days, I didn't know any different, but I thought that, as time went on, the VA, this is what I thought, the VA would re-examine you, blah, blah, blah. And if they felt that you were, getting worse or whatever had happened to you was becoming more chronic, they would upgrade forget it. No, they don't do that. So basically, I talked to a number of other service officers in different veterans organizations, DAV, American Legion, VFW, all those guys have these service officers. And I finally figured out what the deal was, plus guys that had already been increased in their disabilities. And I'll tell you, you have to fight, really fight for every, this business about we take care of our own, horse shit. It's horse shit. Them sons of bitches don't take it. If they can get away with it.
I will tell you this. I want to give a plug out to Syracuse Law Clinic. Guys who are listening to this show, if your veterans have a disability and you need help, I was absolutely amazed when I went to other organizations. They hardly called me. They said that there's not much we could do. I went to the Syracuse Law Clinic, and these young potential lawyers, these guys and girls that are going to become lawyers, they're in their last year of law school, are hungry. They're sharks. They're brilliant. They really are. I'm a big plug to the Syracuse Law Clinic because I got to tell you, they came up with stuff that was just amazing. They don't give up. They'll fight for you tooth and nail. At least the students that I had were amazing, and they're all under professors that really know the law and how to work it. And I'll tell you, I was so happy with them.
But what is, in my humble opinion, despicable is the fact that today, especially today, everything is volunteer in the military. There is no military draft. These people come in looking to serve their nation, and they're expecting that their nation at some point is going to show gratitude. And in today's climate, well, let me tell you what, Bubba, it ain't real likely. So you're right. You got to go out there and demand what is yours. And if they don't like it, too freaking bad.
Well, what I've discovered when you have government-run programs, insurance, it's basically insurance, okay? It's insurance programs. Just like any insurance company, they deny. They do the same thing with disability. You know, first time you go to apply, no matter what, they deny you. And you got to go through the process. And of course, that's the exact same practice most major insurance, if not all major insurance companies, do with their policies, is deny and then make you do it again. And that the VA does that is embarrassing for this country.
The thing that I unbelievable is that we are seeing in the military almost like the exact thing that Don and I saw in the 70s with the military. People don't like the military anymore for some reason. And these brave men and women,
The media
online.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I thought I heard and I'm
the media.
But Don and I
Fuck 'em.
Don and I knew in the 70s we were not popular back then. Military service guys were not popular back then. And it was all about the guy next to you. Don will tell you that more than me. Because Don, folks, let me tell you something. Don is the real deal. I was in the military. Gary was in the military, but Don's the real deal. Okay, he's been through hell and back. And I will tell you this. When a guy like that comes out, he deserves a certain amount of respect, a certain amount of prestige, because any man that puts himself through what Don has, or some of our Navy SEALs, or any of our military people, medics like Gary, they deserve that, and they're not getting it.
Well, when I came back, the media, we're talking about the media a little bit.
Oh, during Vietnam? Yeah, it's not good. Not good.
Right after Vietnam, every television show on the boob tube that depicted, especially Vietnam vets, they depicted them as rapists, drug abusers, psychopaths, baby killers. Okay. Hey, I'll tell you what, I had been called a baby killer when I first came back, and that there was nothing in the world made me want to strangle somebody more than that, because where we were, we didn't see no babies. We saw a lot of North Vietnamese army guys, but no babies. Okay. And that just angered me. But to get back to my original point, it wasn't until 1981 when Magnum PI with Tom Selleck premiered on TV. I damn near cried when I started watching that. It was the first television program that depicted pretty much what veterans were going through. Magnum was a Vietnam vet. His buddy Rick, his buddy TC were all Vietnam vets. They knew each other in country. They were buddies, close pals. And I'll tell you what, that camaraderie is something that the uninitiated will never understand. The camaraderie between military vets that serve together in country, in war, okay? There's something about that that's magical. I don't know.
No, I'm not going to disagree with you at all, because that's absolutely true. I mean, the first time I remember seeing anything dealing with Vietnam vets was the spinoff series Trapper John. And they did the whole broken, dysfunctional thing in that one, where he ends up taking some of the medical people and patients hostage, Vietnam vet, when he loses his shit at the hospital. I don't know if you remember that with, what's his name?
Purnell Roberts.
Purnell Roberts from Bonanza.
Papa P.
And I remember my dad getting angry about that. And I remember when we picked up my brother at the airport, I remember that shit when people were yelling at him, somebody spat at him. And I was really confused because I was a kid. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? You know? And so it's just unacceptable the way that media and this includes the entire entertainment industry treated Vietnam vets.
Yeah, you know, remember the days that Jane Fonda used to visit North Korea? And they splash it all over the media.
North Vietnam.
Yeah, North Vietnam. I'm sorry. North Vietnam. She's in North Vietnam.
Hanoi, yeah.
You know, and stuff like that. How disgusting that is for a guy who been wounded in combat. He's just there because he was drafted there or he wanted to do something patriotic. And he gives it all. And then you see all this media attention toward a piece of garbage like that, you know, sitting on an AK gun, you know, saying, "Oh, this is great." I'm sorry, you know, the media, they're so wrong in this stuff.
Well, it was Selleck and Roger Mosley and Larry Mineta that really changed my mind about a lot of media when they did Magnum. And that thing ran for what, 8 years, I believe, 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
And it was really, for me, it in many ways was a lifesaver.
It's coming back. Did you know that, Don?
It's not good. This is the new. It's the new one. It's not good. It's bad.
Not good. Okay.
Yeah, it's terrible. They did the revival on CBS, and then CBS canceled it, and NBC bought the rights to bring it back. So it's the same cast from the reboot, and that kid's not he's not Thomas Magnum. The only two on there, I do watch the show pretty religiously. I watch it because the casting of Rick and TC, spot on. And they do show support towards veterans. And they even hired a disabled veteran on the show in the cast. But I don't like Higgins or Magnum. They're terrible.
Yeah, the fact that they changed Higgins from what
gender flipped it, and now they're having a relationship. It's weird.
Yeah.
Hillerman, who played Higgins in the original series, is rolling in his grave right now. Magnum!
Oh my God!
And for years, people thought he was British, and he's not. He's American.
Texan. He's a bloody Texan.
And it's so funny because he's not the only actor that had that happen to him. The gentleman who played in Star Trek Next Generation as Moriarty, they thought he was British because he played Moriarty. And then he does The Nanny. And you find out he's actually American and Southern. He's from Georgia. Wow. It's the similarity, and I do believe this is because the best accents that people from England, Ireland, and Australia and New Zealand can do is Southern or New York, the New England states. They can do those accents really well, and that's because there's actually a connection to those accents to the English accent. and so it's easier for him, and I think vice versa. So
House, MD, House was.
yeah, I was freaked out by that the first time I heard him talking. I'm like, hey, isn't that the guy from the Black Adder? I didn't know he was American. I thought he was British. But no. Well, we had a nice little talk there for 16 minutes. I guess we better start talking about UFO stuff before we start losing people.
Let's go for it.
I do want to say hi to everybody. Anima Confusa, love of my life. Andy Morrow from the UK. Monkey Jeebus. Hello, Monkey Jeebus. Thank you. Come again. Bush McFadden. Penny is here. That's Dork Knight's mom. Dragon Ruse is here. John Ostains is here. Fishbelly. Horny Alf is here. He's a veteran too, by the way. Alex Moore. Glenn Fleming, another limey friend of ours and mine. And of course, Slasher Fred is in the chat. I hope everybody in KGRA land is enjoying the show so far, even though we haven't said one damn thing about UFOs or aliens.
Well, we always have a preamble to the show. Come on.
Well, we're guys, and we want to talk. We're veterans, and we like to talk about this shit. But oh wait, what's this? Bush says Gary Oldman is insane for accents. Yes, he is. He's also an amazing impersonator. If you've never heard him do impressions of other actors, it's really good. And it's not something that it's very well known that he impersonates other actors. He'll do voices of other actors, and it's really funny when you catch it. It's like, and I've done a double take when he said something. I'm like, what, did he just do Chris Walken? Wow. Wow. But says, excuse me, Gary, Magnum and Higgins are what the fuck is this show? Yeah, I'm telling you, dude, it's ridiculous. And NBC, I was so glad when they canceled that show. I'm like, oh, thank God. And then NBC says, we don't have anything good on Peacock. Let's start this show off. They got some viewers. And that's what they did. Peacock is terrible as far as streaming service goes. It's just terrible.
I don't have it, so
it's part of it's free, but if you want to watch certain things or watch new things, you got to pay for it. Higgins was a faker. In the last episode, no, Hillerman played him all the way to the end. He played all of the actors played their characters to the end, and everybody knows like the best single episode, and I think it was a 2-parter, wasn't it, Don? Where he shoots that Russian operative that was that tortured them when they were POWs. Asks that great line, "Did you see the sun rise this morning?" He goes, "Yes," and then blows his brains out. And I'm like, that was one of the best moments in Magnum history. I love that episode. But they did some serious writing. And look, I love that guy. I just forgot his name that created that show because he was a veteran. And he created a lot of the best military-based TV shows over the last 40 years.
Wasn't it Cannell?
I think it is Stephen. No, Stephen J. Cannell is his buddy.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we're in the ballpark because they worked together. They were friends. And but in the end, he also created Jag. And
Jag is awesome.
It's a great show, but I want you to tell me one soldier, one permanent party personnel, doesn't matter what branch they're in, that love Jag. Nobody loves Jag.
Well, I got to tell you the truth. I never watched it. Not even.
I love Jag. I thought Jag was awesome.
No, in real life, I'm talking about in the military.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Nobody's fond of them. They're about as popular as poor Joe, who is an MP. It's like yeah. Not popular. It's like I remember, when NCIS started. Again, same people and same creator. It's a spinoff of Jag and NCIS. And I'm like going, Navy doesn't like NCIS. Navy personnel and Navy SEALs in particular do not like NCIS because they see NCIS as the kind of people that want to make a career off of their careers as operators, and they don't like them. That's why I liked in the Terminal List when they brought that up. The main character says, "You're not one of us. Don't act like you're one of us." I'm like, yes, they did it. They took a shit on NCIS.
Well, I thought NCIS was as a person watching the show, I thought the producing, I thought the directing, I thought the acting was very good. How they played that, and let me tell you something. If I was a single man, I would have tried to marry Ziva David any way
Oh, hell yeah.
possible. There's nothing
Mhm.
like a woman that could shoot the bullseye out of a target. You know,
Amen to that. By the way, Slasher Fred says there was a Magnum episode. He's apparently using what do you call it? Voice to text, because it says Magname, but it's Magnum episode that crossed over with the series Murder She Wrote, and it's true. It's the only episode of Murder She Wrote I ever watched was the crossover with Magnum, because I didn't want to watch that show. Old lady solves crimes. That's exciting. That's in the wheelhouse of things I want to watch when I was a kid. Carlton Hughes did a good job with the Adventures of Briscoe. Hey, yeah, Briscoe County. I think it's one of the nice things I ever said to Bruce is that you should have had a longer series out of it. That was a really good show, Briscoe County Jr. The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. Oh, poor Joe's in the audience there. No one in the military likes law enforcement agencies within it until we come to save them. I've never seen that, buddy. I love you, Joe. I'm just fucking with
you. I like that. That's good. Until we come to say, wow, I've never seen that before.
You've never seen that before. There's a story with my grandfather that I won't tell right now that he did in World War I, because no, I'm going to go tell it real quick. He had reconned a building that had been destroyed by artillery, and it was an old, I think, schoolhouse. And he had gone down, stole some, or bought and maybe procured some bread and wine, and brought it back to the house for the guys in his team to eat and drink. And while they're in there, a bunch of MPs came in, drove up, and told them to skedaddle. We're taking over this thing, and just not being nice about it. So get out of here. Get out of here. And as they were walking away, one of the guys that served with him says, hey, Evie, did you tell him about the piano, the booby trap piano? And I don't know in what order it really happened, but it did explode and it killed 2 guys. And my grandfather went, nope. He was not fond of MPs.
I guess not. Oh, yeah.
That was brutal. But that's my grandfather. But it's war, and he didn't like the way that his guys were treated after they just gotten out of at that point, I'm not sure if they're doing trench warfare yet. When did trench warfare start, Don?
1914, 15.
No, I mean with the Americans.
Oh, 1917.
So right after Belleau Wood. So they're already doing trench warfare.
Some of the first troops that were deployed, were a bunch of black troops from Harlem, called the Harlem. Well, they ended up being known as
Harlem Hellfighters. Was that it?
Yeah. And Pershing gave those guys to the French. Okay,
that's right. Yeah, we talked about this before.
Yeah, and they
Hellfighters
were right in. Yeah,
they had a reputation just like the Devil Dogs for just being mean.
Yeah, they were
just mean.
They were tough sons of bitches.
Tough sons of bitches. By the way, Joe, we love you, buddy. And if you want to jump in with us, you're more than welcome to. But we're going to be talking UFOs from this point forward. Let's get into
now.
This
yesterday, Mr. Cassell had a had a very interesting take on things. Do you want to tell them what you said to me, Gary?
Well, look, man, I got to tell you something. I'm a big Joe Rogan fan. I've been watching Rogan for a while, and Rogan gets some of the best ufology people on his program. And he had a physicist, and that was one of the things that was brought up, is the fact that, man, they didn't take such a keen interest in us, really keen interest in us, until after the first detonation of an atomic bomb He says they've been around because we got paintings and drawings and depictions and mentions within the Bible and other books,
And
you know,
text, yes.
yeah, ancient texts, and that these things are talked about, Jacob's ladder, all of that stuff. Everything can be attributed to this stuff, and it's really kind of freaky when you hear about it. Angels, just the mention of angels alone, and but I'm watching Rogan, and this guy starts talking about this, and I was just fascinated with the fact that it's sort of like we were just insects until the detonation of that atomic bomb, and then they start bringing up the whole cradle thing, which we didn't really. It's like the thing, the supposition that he throws out there that I like was the fact that you once a culture or species is ready to go into space, seems to be right after atomic stuff is what that he's theorizing, and that we're not the only ones like us out there, and they're probably watching all of us. But are they watching us with keen interest, or are they watching us because now we're a potential threat? That's the thing I don't understand, and that's kind of, and so maybe because we, as I've learned hanging out with you guys, there are all these different species that we may be dealing with here, and some of them benign, some of them friendly, and some of them maybe don't give two shits for us, who would love to see us not here. And as I understand, that's the reptilian one, right?
Draconian reptilians. Yeah, you're spot
draconian.
on, Gary. There's certain species out there that would love to take this planet because it is a planet that has.
And it's the other species keeping them from doing it.
Yeah, from what I understand, there's a sort of like an alliance to be able to stop that. But as you said, they've been around for years and years and years. But as Jim Mars said, the children found the matches. And the time that we found the matches, the atomic bomb, that's when you started seeing all this talk about abductions, all this talk about landings, all this talk about taking soil samples.
And the thing is, though, there were earlier ones, because Don always corrects me that stuff was happening earlier, but just not to the degree that we saw after.
Including nuclear detonations on this planet. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because that's what's written
Hiroshima
about
and Nagasaki was not the first.
But it was the first that maybe we did. Because the ones, the way I interpret that from I always forget the Indian text. I always forget what it's called, the pronunciation of it. The
Hagra something.
The Gabba Gabba Da. Yeah, the Gabba Gabba Da. And, because they talk about wars in the air and nukes being used. Yeah. And of course, you've shown that there are traces on this planet from before our first detonation. It's the same thing that our friend John Brandenburg discovered with Mars, that there were two airbursts, atomic airbursts that occurred on Mars. And that our species may have gotten its start on Mars and came here, or were relocated here after that planet was destroyed. The atmosphere, etc., etc., etc.
Well, Gary, I believe that we're 4.5 billion years old. The Earth is. I believe there's been advanced civilization. I agree with Don. There's been advanced civilizations that have come and gone, destroyed themselves. And people think, oh, that couldn't happen because they got to be just like us. We're not thinking out of the box. We got to start thinking out of the box and start saying, yeah, they're advanced civilization. They don't have to be like us, though. They could have different clothing, different way of life, different way of living, and we have to accept that. And they were different structure. Maybe they were giants. Maybe they were didn't look like us. But I believe there's been other civilizations, advanced civilizations, that have lived on this planet and have come and gone for whatever reason.
Well, back when my wife and I were publishing UFO magazine, often back in those days, and I'm going back now a bit over 30 years ago, I often clashed with the skeptical community. Okay, people like Phil Klass, people like James Oberg, people like Joe Nichols, and others. Okay,
I just have trouble picturing you clashing with anybody.
really?
Just you're so sweet.
Well, no. People would be talking about encounters where they witnessed humanoid, what they believed were extraterrestrials, various types, and even ETs or alleged ETs that could pass for human. And they would go off on a tangent about, oh my God, do you realize how big the universe is? Do you realize how many ways evolution would have gone? How is it possible that there would be people out in the cosmos that look like us? Well, that used to tick me off because they weren't thinking. Now, as a real quick sideways here, there's a movie coming out in about a week and a half called 65. Okay.
Yeah.
That is looking real interesting. And
Mhm.
the premise is a crash landing on Earth by an extraterrestrial race 65 million years ago that look as human as you and I. Now, what if our distant ancestors, in fact, were like you and I, okay, or a very close genetic copy of other beings out in the universe that basically are similar, or if not identical, to Homo sapiens sapiens, which, by the way, that's our classification.
Yeah, people call us Homo sapiens. It's like, no, that's
Yeah.
the main category. The subcategory of us, actually, as a species, is Homo sapien sapien.
Right.
Or as Tyrell would say, more human than human.
Well, that is something to really consider, because you're right, Chris. You got to be able to think a bit outside of the box. Now, with that being said, Zachariah Sitchin, who is basically a legendary name now, was a very close and very dear friend of mine. I met him in 1989 after I mentioned some of his works on one of my first appearances on Larry King Live on CNN. And he got in touch with me because I referenced his book, The 12th Planet. Now, he wrote a series of books collectively known as the Earth Chronicles series. If you haven't read any of those, I highly recommend at least his very first book, The 12th Planet, and then a later book that came out in about 88, 89 called Genesis Revisited. Now, Sitchin was a Sumerian scholar, okay? He was originally born in what was then the Soviet Union in the Ukraine. His family were able to get out. They emigrated to Israel before it was Israel. He grew up in Israel and ended up going to the United Kingdom, where he attended the London School of Economics. Now, in Israel, or what was then Palestine, he was in school one day, and he never really made it clear to me whether it was school, or whether it was rabbinical school, because he was Jewish.
Oh, yeah.
He got into an argument with his teacher, his instructor. They were discussing Genesis, the first book of the Christian Bible, which originally, of course, was taken from the Jewish Torah.
The Torah.
Now,
Yep.
Sitchin was arguing about the passage, Genesis chapter 6, verse 1, where it says, the sons, S-O-N-S, plural, of God looked down upon the earth, and I'm paraphrasing somewhat, and viewed the daughters of men, women. They found them highly desirable. They went down and took as many wives as they wanted. And to sum it all up, their progeny were the Nephilim, the men of renown. Now, that's some weird shit, right? Weird. But what exactly were they saying? Well, in the book of Enoch, okay, these were described as fallen angels. There we go again, Gary, that term, angels, which in the Greek mean what? Messengers. They were messengers of God, okay? Now, they came down. They started hanging out with these human chicks. They had a lot of children. The children were the Nephilim. They grew up. They were giants, according to the ancient scripture. They were giants, and they became evil. And once they became evil, okay, they started, among other things, according to the ancient scripts, cannibalizing human beings, eating them. God was disgusted, and then he ultimately brought the great flood to wipe it all out. Now, I could go on, but what's the use of that?
So and it's, by the way, if you've not seen Russell Crowe's Noah movie, that's the approach they come from.
Yes.
And I liked that. Some people didn't like that film. The modern Christian aspect of it didn't like that, the religious right and stuff. But I actually appreciated that film because it went back to the Apocrypha and the actual Torah to get the story. And I really liked the film. Have you seen it, Don?
No. I never did see that movie. No.
Yeah, your twin is in it, Anthony Hopkins. I think he's as cranky as you.
Come on,
he
Gary.
plays Noah's father.
Do I really come across as that cranky? Come on.
No.
I don't know. I don't think we've heard enough sons of bitches this episode.
I call you a lovable teddy bear.
I love you, Don. You know that. So I do want to go to the chat here real quick. Again, we had some people pop in, so I want to say hi to them. Let's see. Slasher Fred, Joe's Atmosphere, and Amos Falker are here. And we got some interesting comments I wanted to go to. Sean Eastep just became a member. That is awesome. Thanks, man. I thought he was already a member, so I wonder. I don't know. Then Monkey Jiba says, let's see. His tombstone should say, "See you soon, you sons of bitches." That was for you, Don. Let's see. Anima Confusa. Our species might have advanced too fast, fucked up, and then they reset us. Actually, that's kind of what it seems like. It really does. By the way, she is like a sponge learning stuff about UFOs and the movies, TV stuff. She's amazing. Let's see. And then we got a couple of people that brought it up. Glenn Fleming and Monkey Jeebus said Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita. They got both of them said it. Fish Belly says, could it be nuke explosions bleed over into other dimensions?
Yes.
And that's something that you and I talked about last week.
Right. I want to explore that a little bit.
Yeah, tearing the fabric of reality. Mm-hmm. It is that potentiality. Yeah, let's get into that in a second here. Let me finish these
good catch,
comments.
Fish Belly. Good catch.
And then let's see. We still never got to hear the story of Don saving class from getting his ass kicked. And then Bush McFadden says, "In the Bhagavad Gita, baby." Originally, I think that wasn't that supposed to be in the Garden of Eden? In the Garden of Eden?
Yes, that is true.
Yep.
He was so high that he could
Iron butterfly. And
Iron
there's a
butterfly.
UFO magazine story about that.
Interesting. Bush winks at me. I don't know why. Surreptitious wink.
Because
Surreptitious
he's
wink
Homo
right back at you.
erectus.
That's right. That's why. Here we go. I'm Homo erectus. And then he also says, oh, wait, Martin says in the chat, cannibalism is when members of a species eats other members of the same species. Yeah. Thanks for the basic biology lesson there, Martin. I'm like a sponge too. I'm usually moist. I don't even want to read this any further. He said the word moist. The minute I see that.
Jesus.
If my daughter watches, you want to trigger my daughter, say the word moist in front of my daughter. She goes, shut up. She hates that word. But I want to thank everybody for being here. And anybody that's at KGRA that watches us through the app or listens to us over any other sources, including Rumble, please feel free to join the chat. And it's a great way right now to ask questions of our panel and to make your comments if you have a comment that you want to make. And Bill has told me that I need to start doing that, saying that. And I'm like, yeah, you know what, Bill? I will. And by the way, Bill, stop telling me what to do.
Oh, God.
He's our boss.
Bill never tells me what to do. He just suggests.
Yeah, suggests. I love it. He's he and Anima are the two best Captain Obviouses I know. Telling me things I'm already aware of. Thanks, Bill. Were you aware? Yes, I was. It's my job to know that. It's actually my job to know that. Yes, I know that.
You have a question from Bush?
Okay, I'm damp. That sounded better. To me, it doesn't bother me. Moist is one of those words that if it's not attached to cake, don't say it. And it's one of those ways I like to trigger people that don't like the word moist. I'll say it myself inappropriately.
Well, I like moist chocolate chip cookies.
Not chewy. See, that to me, cookies should be chewy. Muffins and cake should be moist. But it's still, it's just perverted. There's something about the word moist sounds perverse. I don't know what it is.
In his thing, he was talking about mold and fungus. That was kind of worrying me more than more like mold and fungus. I go, man, you got some bad stuff going on around there, bro. You might want to see a doctor. I'm not a doctor, but you might want to check one out if you got a lot of mold and fungus, bro.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was on a panel and things went south, and I ended up getting aggravated with somebody, and they said, well, nobody on this panel is a medical expert. I said, compared to you guys, I'm a medical expert. I've got 20 years in the medical field.
Bush has a question for Don.
Uh-oh.
Fire away, Bush. We're waiting.
Yes. No, nobody talk. I don't care how long this takes for him to post this question. Silence. Did our show just lose viewership?
Let me just say it better be a good
silent.
We have yet another breach.
There we go. You want to play the video?
Okay.
Okay, here's the question. Hey, if you're a hot dog and you were starving, would you eat yourself? Don't jerk me around here, Don. That is
Bush. Fuck you.
Bush. That is, of course, from Will Ferrell's Harry Carey talking about science and space.
I like this.
Okay, here we go with the video.
Strong. I'm gonna go check the back door. Back door.
Hi. One was made of ribs. Would you eat it? I sure would. Wash it down with a cool glass of Budweiser. That's good.
Well, this has been a great topic about UFOs. I can tell you that.
Oh, I got to tell you too. And by the way, Brian had his second show yesterday. I think it went off without a hitch. Great show. I dropped in to say hi to everybody. But I found some early footage of our good friend Brian from Scotland. Just so you understand why we have trouble understanding him.
If he was a wee bit closer, I could lob a caber at him, kin. It's just no fair marking respect for the hand of the coin. There's no internet but yet. Ken?
Even the Scottish are like, what did he say? Scottish, every Tuesday we have our little Scotsman here, and good show yesterday. Did you watch any of it, Don? Catch
What?
any of it? Brian's show yesterday?
No.
It's
No,
fun. You should check it out.
I was
Occupied
totally,
with Bailey. Yeah, I know.
well, that too, but no.
Let me guess, Bailey was being naughty.
Did you see my post today?
Anima and I both read. She even commented on it. But good old Beagle Bailey. So let's go further into this, because Don, you were wanting to talk about that. What was it you wanted to talk about? Interdimensional tear in space.
Yeah. It was really weird. Okay. Back in the early 50s, when the so-called contactee movement got going. Okay. The contactees were in large talking about the Space Brothers. That's how they referred to the occupants of many UFOs. And there were a lot of weird stories going on. And a lot of the great hucksters of the early UFO movement, that's when they came forward. Now, this is pretty much in mass what they were claiming, that the UFO occupants, the so-called Space Brothers, were coming down. Oh, Gary, my wife is in the kitchen again, so
oh, is she cooking? It's gonna get loud, folks.
What, honey? Yes, that's what I'm getting to. She's correcting me. The Space Brothers were warning us about, the nuclear bombs. Well, that's it. They were coming down, and the message that people like George Adamski and many others were giving was that nukes were bad. We got to get rid of the nukes. Now, that freaked the intelligence services of the United States, believe it or not, right out of their minds. They became convinced that this was a Russian KGB operation, okay, that were trying to get the American public concerned to the point where we would be pressuring the government to do away with the nukes. However, we were doing a hell of a lot of above ground testing then. And one of the things, and you got to be able to put all this together, which means you've got to have a real good working knowledge of what the history was. Okay. See, Anima's telling me to listen to my wife.
Yeah, I started that one.
Yeah. So,
also, by the way, you have a question here. Serious question from Bush. Why are aliens depicted as nude or fairly unclothed? We wear gloves and eye protection using cordless drillers. Should they use an advanced tech? I believe full body suit, which is what I've always assumed. They're not naked. I don't think they're naked. I think that's like a second skin.
No. But anyway, to get back to my point about the interdimensional possibility, a number of years ago, a researcher came out with a very, and this has been verified to me by several other people. There was a coterie of people within the Pentagon that want nothing to do with the UFO question at all. They don't even want it explored. They're called collectively the Collins Elite. And they believe that the UFO phenomena is basically demonic in nature. Demonic, from the depths of hell, if you will. Now, we've drilled down into the earth. As a matter of fact, the Russians have drilled miles down into the earth. They've since quit, but they went down damn near to the magma, and nobody found hell. So it's not beneath our feet, but what if it's right next to us? These nuclear detonations may actually be tearing holes in space-time, which have allowed entities from that other dimension to enter into ours. And even if you go back to the late 40s, the early 50s, and you look at people like Jack Parsons, okay, and the coterie of guys that he was hanging out with, Aleister Crowley, Jack Parsons, and I'm trying to, L. Ron
These are
Hubbard.
some evil motherfuckers, by the way.
Yeah.
They allegedly, well, Crowley in particular,
Said they ripped
manifested
fabric.
a demonic entity that did, in fact, if you believe the lore, enter our space. And they were called, or this entity was collectively called Lamb. Okay.
LAM. Yep.
Lamb. And it looks surprisingly, the drawings that were made of Lamb look surprisingly like grays. So is it possible that not only is the UFO phenomenon extraterrestrial from off-world, but from interdimensional space? And this is why this damn field is so confusing, so absolutely confusing. And it's one of those things that just make you go and give you a headache.
Don, didn't you mention once before that there was some sort of problem with the CERN in Switzerland? Didn't they hit some dark matter together and there was a possibility of a tear with the dimensions being done there?
Yeah. And I add that, and I'll hit that, Chris, but I add that to a conversation I had with Vicky about 12, 15 years ago. One morning, I got up, came out here like I normally do almost every day, poured myself a cup of coffee, sat down, and depending upon how bored I am that early in the morning, I turned on my little radio and I was listening to some newscasts. And the newscasts were so off the wall outlandish. And of course, you realize I live in California, the land of fruits, nuts, and flakes. Anyway.
That's right.
Yeah. When Vicky came out to get a cup of coffee, I said, "You're not going to believe what I heard." And she sat down, and whatever the story was, I told her, and I was shaking my head. And I said, "You know what?" I said, "It's almost like we went through a dimensional rift. We're not where we were yesterday. We're somewhere else." And then I started reading about the CERN super collider. Okay. And I started thinking about that. They were looking for the God particle.
Yes.
Okay. They were looking for something called the God particle, which would explain, I guess, that super secret riddle in physics about what it all means. Things like spooky action at a distance that Albert Einstein talked about. For example, you could have an entity here, and the identical entity could be 1 billion light years away. And if something affected this entity would reflect it instantaneously. Ergo, you have you have spooky action at a distance. And what does it mean? Hell, I have no idea. But if we start playing with these things, we shouldn't be surprised at what transpires from it right now. And I've been reading this everywhere. They are saying, no pun intended, that we're probably 1.5 pubic hairs from a World War III nuclear explosion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now that, if you think about that, I mean, I've spent my entire life, hey, when I was a kid in grade school, I can
Don,
remember
we have
the
to wrap.
drills.
Oh shit! It's time for our commercial break. All right. Hey, Bill, take us away, and then we'll be right back, guys, to talk some more about this. Hi, guys. This is Gary from Pop Culture Minefield here on KGRA, and we're leaving for our first break. I hope we survive.
A birthday without her mom, an anniversary without her husband, her wedding day without her dad. These are the days when military families feel it most of all. The loss of their soldier, their sailor, their airman, their Marine, their Coast Guardsman. Families never forget their loved ones lost to war or illness or suicide. Families never forget, and neither do we. We are TAPS, the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors. We provide resources, support, and comfort to heal the hearts and meet the needs of grieving military families, all at no cost to them. Your generosity can make an enormous difference in the lives of the families of our fallen military heroes. Our military families need to know they are not alone and they are not forgotten. Show them your support at taps.org.
Facing humanity is on the verge of being settled once and for all. The Mutual UFO Network has been at the forefront of this journey for nearly 50 years. Our members worldwide are dedicated to the research, documentation, and awareness that will shape the future of humanity. Won't you join us?
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Oh, wow. We survived. Welcome back from the commercial break. Now for some more Pop Culture Minefield on KGRA. Okay, before we continue here, I want to apologize to Chanel for saying Bill. I'm so used to talking to Bill. I forgot Chanel was here doing the show. I'm like, oops, sorry, Chanel. So, Chanel, take us away is what I meant to say. So, I do want to point this out. John also has something to share here. Can we take the logo off me here?
Wait
for a second, buddy. Can you do that?
Yes,
I'm just look at.
I'm sure I can do it. Let me.
Oh shit! Stop dancing, Gary. So anyway, this was the TV series, and it really bugged me because they made it all sexy. This is the guy. What's his name that you were talking about? The rocket scientist who delved into bringing lamb here, helping bring lamb here.
Yeah, Jack Parsons.
And Parsons, they made the show just. I really wasn't sure. I'm absolutely positive what they were trying to do. They were trying to sexy up devil worship. Is what they were trying to do. I mean, look at that. And then this one too.
Well, now in full disclosure, there was a lot
sex, magic,
of
rocket
grabbing
science
going on there. Okay.
Yeah,
L. Ron Hubbard, one of the three. The guy
L. Ron Hubbard
that founded Scientology, grabbed Parsons' girlfriend, ripped him off for a shitload of money, and took off into the sunset. Okay. They were there's Lamb. They were doing a lot of hanky panky, shall we say. This is a family show, right? A lot of hanky panky.
Yeah, sure. So that's the creature entity that they supposedly brought through a rip in the fabric of time and space.
Now, did they send them back Gary? Did they send him back, or is he?
Well, they gave
still
him some
hanging around?
Tupperware or some shit like that and said, "Hey, thanks for coming."
Thanks for coming. I mean, send us a telegram when you get home.
Don't let the door hit you on the way out. So yeah, I don't know, Don. You know the story better than I do because I've only learned this shit because of you. So what was the conclusion of their research? Did they open a door and they didn't know how to shut it?
It's pure speculation on my part about that. But yeah. The door got open, but they didn't know how to close it. And well, you've seen a lot of weird things ever since. Hey, where do you think a lot of these cryptoids come from? Like the
I got to tell
infamous
you,
Mothman.
it is odd. It is odd.
The infamous and let's not forget Sasquatch. Okay, now I'm not saying all Sasquatch are necessarily cryptids from another dimension, but I think some of them may. You know, and I've said this on this show before too. There are at least two types of Sasquatch. There's the 5-toed variety, and there's the 3-toed variety. And the 3-toed variety are often seen in connection with UFOs.
Do you think Sasquatch worry about identity politics?
No, it's possible today, Gary. I don't know.
I identify as a whatever. Sasquatch. Could you imagine? And by the way, any Sasquatch offended by that joke, all I got to say is, what the fuck are you doing watching YouTube?
What are you doing in the first place? I truly believe that Sasquatch was brought here by alien species to see if they could thrive. Because if you notice that, you don't see one walking down Main Street.
I don't believe in cul-de-sacs. I mean, it's been proven that Neanderthalis was not, or Cro-Magnon wasn't a cul-de-sac. That we have that DNA in over 70% of all humans, and so they survived clearly. So I consider the fact that Sasquatch or whatever they are may just be a variant of, because there are aspects of evolution I believe in, and the rest I think is crap, because they're just too religious about it. And when people get religious about science, I'm immediately like, let's back off a little bit. I don't religious people to begin with most of the time. So
one of the things we do have is we have absolutely people swearing up and down reports to us that they've seen Sasquatch come off and get back on crafts.
Yes, but that ends up being the one that Don was talking about, the 3-toed variety. So they're not. And this is the potential from what I understand. And by the way, for anybody that's religious out there that goes, "What did he just say?" I love people of faith. I do. What I dislike are people who are overly anything, excessively something. So there. But the 3-toed variety may be actually not even real. That it may be what we talked about before is the second skin, maybe digital, virtual. That these things may not even be Sasquatch at all. And I do know that, who was it we talked to this year that is doing a lot of investigation? That wasn't you, Chris, said that reports were up in Pennsylvania for both UFOs and Sasquatch sightings at the same time.
I didn't say that, but I can tell you
story. Let me tell you a real quick little story that may give you an idea that not all is as it seems. Back in the early 90s, Area 51 was a hotbed. Everybody, after the Bob Lazar stories broke, and John Lear and that whole coterie of people, there were people driving out to Rachel, Nevada, practically every night, okay?
I'm sorry.
And one night,
Sasquatch. Read that, Don.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. One night, a guy and a bunch of people were out by, if you're familiar with Area 51, you've heard about the black mailbox, okay? which was a famous point where you can see the mountains, the Groom Mountains, where a lot of UFOs had been seen. And they're driving down the highway there. And suddenly, right by the black mailbox, as big as a house, bright as day, stood, and I shit you not, Wile E. Coyote from the Roadrunner series. Wile E. Coyote standing there. The car zipped past, slammed on the brakes. They flew backwards, and it was gone. Okay. Now,
What in the hell?
I think it was the military dicking around with 3D applications.
Oh yeah, that's what it sounds
Yeah.
like to me.
Yeah.
And yeah,
They were playing with the gawkers. But needless to say, this thing was standing there looking as solid as a horse barn. Okay. And then it was gone. Now, that will give you an idea of what they could conceivably do on the battlefield. And as an aside, a quick aside, while we were on break, I turned on the radio for a minute. I heard a news story. The CCP, the Commie Chinese, are very upset right now at the congressional hearings yesterday, naming China as the likely spot of the leak of the Wuhan virus. Okay.
Well, be
They're
careful.
really upset about
We will get
that.
ganked. We'll get ganked.
yeah, yep.
They will pull us. YouTube.
Not
will.
anymore. Not anymore. People
Are you
is
sure?
talk-
Because somebody just got in trouble for it
everybody's talking about
this
that.
week. All right.
Yeah. Not
Everybody-
on
We can
YouTube,
talk
baby.
about it. We just have to find other words like the Gugan virus,
The Google. Okay. How
the
about
Baglabida, the Baglabida
Hey,
virus.
you know what? This is the freaking United States of America. God
Yeah, they
damn
don't
it.
care.
There's
They're-
something called the
YouTube's
fucking
communist.
First Amendment. Fuck them.
God
That's my attitude.
bless
YouTube is
God.
communist. We all know that.
Okay,
They-
okay.
they
Chanel is
run-
advising us not to talk about the issue.
I told you. YouTube is like the KGB, my friend. They are.
It is.
They behave more like the KGB than anybody. Yep, there you go.
Well, this is
they're number one.
well, what Bush is saying is true, and since they did it, everybody on YouTube has been talking about it. But I leave it to you, Gary.
Well, I'm just what I found is because I watch a lot of other programs. They find what one lawyer from Canada refers to it as instead of saying the V word and the name of the V word, he goes the Miley Cyrus. And I thought that was clever. It's like and he will just emphasize now we're talking about the Miley Cyrus, and he never got ganked for doing that.
I will
and
tell you
his
this.
videos.
Don is correct when he talks about, because it's actually for the first time, it's bipartisan, that there's actually Democrats and Republicans that are agreeing about China and the Miley Cyrus, because now that the FBI put out a report about Miley Cyrus and the Department of Energy put out a report. Now they're trying to say, well, the Department of Energy report was low confidence. That may be, but they don't understand what low confidence means. But the FBI report was considered a medium confidence to a higher confidence. And so you got two government agencies going against the mainstream media, and the mainstream media doesn't know what to do. They're going like, do we report this? Do we not report this? What do we do?
And they're going to look bad when they do, because they denied what the Miley Cyrus was and where it came from. And
all the time.
Now they look back. When Jon Stewart, who's a lefty, he's not just a liberal, he's a lefty. When he steps out in front and hits it out of the park, criticizing the media for what they did, and what YouTube is still actively doing by censoring people to talk about this. But you know what? And this is my one thing on this, Don. I have to say that I absolutely, I'm a big supporter of the Constitution and the right to free speech. But the problem is, YouTube and some of these guys really abuse the privilege of being a private company.
Yes, they do.
And private companies have that right to silence us, and it's something that says, and I'm reminded of this from earlier when you were talking about people doing a rip in the fabric of time and space, that Jeff Goldblum line, that you become so obsessed with doing a thing, you don't ask, should you do a thing? Is it right that I do a thing? And YouTube's one of those people. They knee jerk. I mean, does it hurt them even remotely to allow people to have free speech? No, it doesn't hurt them. It doesn't impact them one iota. They make their money no matter what. So why are they doing it?
Because
Why?
they can.
Yeah, because they can. And that woman stepped down from YouTube. I'm like, do you think she's going to be replaced with someone who's going to be any better at this point? No. When you see people getting fired, like by David Zaslav, then you'll go, okay, they're going to finally put somebody in there. It's going to be a little more rational in how they do things. But YouTube is an employer of some of the worst censors I've ever seen.
We'll see what happens when the barbarians are kicking in their front door.
Yep.
Let me ask you guys a question, because Don and I have talked about always when there's a crime, you follow the money. So let me ask you this. Who owns YouTube?
Google. And I just was speaking about this yesterday.
How much stock does Google have in pharmaceuticals?
This is why other companies like Rumble and all these other video sites are having trouble growing. It's because Google is the largest search engine and they control the internet. Pretty much all of it. So they diminish everybody. This is the best example of how a monopoly works and what Teddy Roosevelt was fighting against when he broke up Standard Oil. That kind of shit. Google is controlling everything, so their massive collectivism of getting all the money. They want all that money and they want control. And YouTube is at the top because of Google. They were at the top on their own, but they could have been surpassed by other ones. But Google stopped that.
Ask yourself, how much stock does Google own in pharmaceuticals?
Oh, they own major. Yeah. We don't even need to go there. So, look, they all have skin in the game, man. There's no question about it. We're seeing corruption in the media, including social media with these platforms. Elon Musk shook the pillars of heaven when he got Twitter. And now they're scared and they're nervous. Because before they were comfortable. We can just do whatever we want. You're not the boss of me. I'm the boss of you. I'll show you what you... Now, all of a sudden... Now, agreed, there's some still hinky shit going on at Twitter. People that shouldn't be banned are being banned over there. But I got to tell you, it's better. I have, I've been able to say things and not get shut down. Things I say. And on my personal account, I won't say it on our Pop Culture Minefield page because it's non-political, but I'm very political on Twitter. And I'm surprised some people still follow me because I have a lot of liberal friends, but I think they actually agree with at least 70% of what I say because it's logic-based.
I will pose a question to Don because I'm sure Don's going to enjoy this. Why has now the media, the White House, all these people are now using a word they never really used before when they're describing the balloon incident or anything else?
Oh, UFOs?
The word UFO.
Yeah.
And they're using that word, and the other word they're using all the time is threat. Are they trying to prepare us for something like Project Moonbeam? Don?
Well, they're in the conspiracy area of the web. There are a lot of people that are screaming about that. Beware, because we're on the verge of a quote unquote fake alien invasion. Look, UFO, for years was persona non grata almost entirely across the web. In all those years, going back to the late 80s, I've seen it from a laughing stock phrase. You know, if you would ever see, and it wasn't that often, but if you were ever to see a story on UFOs, and it doesn't matter how serious the story was, the newscasters would immediately start smirking and laughing as they talked about it. Until, and this was really only one time, the Voronezh USSR sighting was mentioned, where a UFO allegedly landed in a Russian city park. TASS reported on it. It made all the TV networks here in the United States. They basically treated it seriously. That was my first appearance on Larry King Live. We were called by Larry King Live because they wanted to do a story on this. The first guy that interviewed me was political commentator Pat Buchanan, on that show. And I thought this might be a watershed event. It wasn't, okay? As soon as this story passed from the front page, it was almost forgotten like it never happened. When I broke the story on STS-48 space shuttle mission, where they encountered UFOs in orbit and something appeared to shoot at those bogies, that made a big splash for about a half an hour on Larry King Live, and then it disappeared. I thought that we at the magazine were going to be queried for the next 2 weeks from news organizations all over the globe. Not a peep. So yeah, it wasn't until Harry Reid in December of 2017 held a presser about funding the ATIP program at the Pentagon. And now there are a hell of a lot of people saying that ATIP never existed, that whole thing with Louis Elizondo and all those other people, Hal Puthoff, you name it, it was bogus, that it was simply a money-grabbing operation that incidentally, in part, is still going on at Congress.
Who's saying this? This is interesting.
That's a whole nother show, Gary. And I'm not going to talk about it now. But I will talk about it down the road. There's a lot of things going on. But UFO today, it's basically now okay to use that acronym, UFO or UAP, because it's obfuscating a lot of what's going on beneath the surface. You hear UFO, what's the first thing that 90% of the public's going to think about? Aliens, not what might be beneath UFO. Now for the White House to use it, look, I will just say that anything I hear from the White House, I give it zero credibility, zero, not even 1%, but zero credibility. I don't believe a goddamn thing I hear. So, but that's me, So you make up your own mind about what you believe, but I hope that answered your question.
It's interesting, no matter what. I think it's not an answer so much as a conversation we need to continue at another point, because this sounds like a rabbit hole to go down.
Gary, it's all a rabbit hole, buddy. It's all a rabbit hole, every bit of it.
That was my ex-girlfriend's nickname, by the way.
Yeah.
John Osteen says, "Thank you for getting that, Chris." I don't think anybody else got that joke.
Why am I on this show? I don't know.
Why am I here? Murdoch just testified to the old media cliche. It's not about red and blue; it's green. Yeah, and I don't doubt that for a second, John. And Monkey says Skinwalker might be a hoax too. Hal Putoff was involved with that too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've heard some other weird things from various people about Skinwalker Ranch. The former owner of Skinwalker, which of course is
Bigelow.
Robert Bigelow, the
Yep.
current owner of Skinwalker Ranch. That's also something that I'm not ready to really go into any depth right now, but I will down the road. I will.
Well, I want to point something out. This is because I told you I watch a lot of Joe Rogan. I really like him. He's probably, oddly, probably one of the best journalists out there. And he is like, he's never went to school for this shit. And he's really good at this. And he had Eric Weinstein on, who is the physicist I was talking about. And this is broken into two segments. We're not going to watch it now because I would love to, but the fact is I want to discuss it. And he's the one who brings up we may be faking UFO situations. He's not saying that UFOs don't exist because he absolutely believes in them, but he believes that the government loves disinformation so much that they could be faking some of this stuff. And this guy, he says, this is the concern he has. And if you guys want to check out this video here, I'm sharing it right now. Please don't watch it right now. Stay with us. But after the show, go check this video out right here. It's in the group chat. I just put it in there. What he talks about in this video kind of blew my mind, that he's talking about how if you look at a lot of these top people that they've got doing this research, he goes, none of them are experts in their fields. He goes, well, now when NASA and the government wanted to study something, who did they go to? Top scientists in that field. That's who they went to research that. And now you got these czars and these people in charge of these groups to investigate that aren't experts. He says, do you know who's the most preeminent expert living right now that should be researching it? I'm in the top 3. Weinstein said that. Nobody contacted me. Nobody contacted the other 2.
Remember Wile E. Coyote?
Yep. Look, I look at it as the classic New York Street shell game, doing the, keep your eye on the ball. That's the government, man. And
well, people always thought that Project Mockingbird was a conspiracy theory, and that proven to be true. That we were buying journalists, we were manipulating we were even spying on journalists, eavesdropping on them, so we could work with or change the media to however they want it to go. Now I'm looking at Project Bluebeam, and I got to tell you, there's some things that Don just said. If we can create holograms that are so real, somewhere along the line, if somebody gets their hands on this, they could create a fake alien invasion, and blow something up and just say,
it's
"Oh my
like
God!"
The
it's
CIA,
like the Watchmen.
The CIA had a plan for that very thing in 1962 for Cuba. There was going to be another invasion of Cuba, and they had a plan. It never came to fruition. It never happened. But they were the Cuban people, for the most part, were not communists, okay, at the time. This is when Castro, Fidel was in charge, and there was a lot of nasty, nasty things happening. The CIA wanted to whack Castro. As a matter of fact, they even had a plan. Castro was known for smoking his cigars. They even had a plan to feed Castro a poisoned cigar to whack him. Everybody except the Girl Scouts of America were on board, okay, to go in and do him, the mafia, you
commie
name it.
Girl Scouts.
Well, they had a plan to do a light show over Cuba, in the skies of Cuba, and then shoot something like a hologram of Jesus Christ coming down from the sky, okay, when they were planning to do the invasion, thinking that the Cuban people would see this and rise up and help drive the commies out. Now, this is honest to God true. I forget now what the what the name of the project was. I don't think this is right, but for some reason, I'm not even going to say it because I know it's not.
I think it
correct
was
name.
Project Moonbeam. I think it was part of Project Moonbeam.
Not Moonbeam. No, it was something else, Chris. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It was in the works. They never did it. I don't know why. Maybe the technology wasn't there. But that was their plan, to have Jesus Christ come down from the sky into Cuba. And hey, there was even, if you if you can believe this, now this is how whack some of those people were at the CIA. They were going to stage something like an aircraft crash, and while it might have been a robot plane or something, but on board they had condoms, huge condoms.
Oh my God!
With on the side of it printed medium size. Okay?
Medium.
Made in the USA. They actually had that to make, penis envy, to make the Cuban military penis envy. This
Psychological
is some of the
warfare. Yeah, it's like
I'm not kidding about that. That's true as I'm saying.
I can tell you that might work in the reverse though, because I'd want to take somebody out that was bigger than me.
It reminds me of when I was in my early 20s, and I was with a bunch of my buddies that I was in a band with, and we stopped off at a convenience store, and I went up to the counter. I said, because they kept those things, the prophylactics, behind the counter. I said, yeah, I need to get a box of condoms. She goes, what size would you like? And I pointed at a little box behind the counter that was sitting in their little tray area. That was hefty trash bags. That one will do. Hefty trash bags. That one will do. And the girl stopped and stared at me, and my buddies started laughing. I went, I'm just kidding. Medium will be good. And then, of course, the classic joke from the 80s. I remember this one. And I told this to my son later. I said, son, if somebody ever asks you if you've ever read the serial number at the base of a condom, tell them yes.
John Osteen just said Project Mongoose. I think that was it.
I wouldn't be surprised. There we go. In fact, let's go. I've got 10 things started here. John Osteen, tell Chanel to take us out with something, The Dark Side of the Moon, released 50 years today. So classic Pink Floyd. There you go. Good stuff. Let's see. Osteen's again. One of the weirder theories I've heard about the occult rift theory is that animal mutilations were part of rituals used to open and close doors by both sides. Interesting. Bush had to leave. Love having him around. I stopped talking to all of those people. They see something on the news, and that's reality. Shut up. I have proof. Yeah, I know what he's talking about. Yeah, fuck those people. Yeah, the news said it, so it's got to be true. Those missing. Oh, absolutely, Amos. I've actually got a story called David Two Trees that deals with missing Native American girls. And I actually say American Indian because they are American Indian. They're very proud to be American Indians. It's only those that deal with identity politics that bother with the whole Native American. We're all Native. If you're born here, you're a Native. It's just kind of ridiculous to say that. Yeah. Around 1,000 dead, and absolutely. The missing, because they are victimized. They're victimized from within at the reservation as well as without. People going and taking them and putting them in the sex trade too. It's just god awful, and that's what we address in David Two Trees. And then let's see. I believe Joe lied about his favorite flavor ice cream. He said chocolate chip. It's got the stutter in there because he wanted to look like an ally to the brothers and sisters of the black community. There you go. And by the way, when I say that, it's black. If you know Family Guy, you got to whisper blacks. Let's see. I hear Ozzy singing in my ear about the war machine turning. All this DeLong UAP stuff feels like PR for military industrial complex. Greg Bishop convinced. Well, look, we said it right at the beginning. UAP came about because people in politics were uncomfortable saying UFO. That's all it's for.
Right.
Because they're uncomfortable. Fuck them. Let's see. Nobody wants to question if someone is messing with them. That's not alien. And if it's even possible to be messed with by humans, not alien. That's Monkey Jeebus. And let's see. John O'Staines again. Put a Virgin Mary holograph over a highly Catholic country and you can cause all kinds of chaos. Yes, you would, my friend. Yes, you as a Catholic, I know that. I mean, we've had people, it's like, I saw the Virgin Mary on toast. Jesus. You know, some crazy stuff, man. And Martin, you're right. It is very reminiscent of what they show with Mysterio in that Spider-Man Far From Home. What we're talking about, the holographic stuff. I mean, if you've not been watching, have you guys been watching the drone shows in Australia?
I've seen drone shows. I haven't seen that one, but I have seen drone shows.
That's crazy. I thought it was CG at first. I'm like, there's no way they're moving that fast.
Did you see a flock of drones in the shape of the Starship Enterprise?
Yes, that's part of what I'm talking about. That shit's crazy, dude. Now, agreed, I think they speed up the video on some of that, but the fact is that's freaky as hell what they can do with those drones. That they're using drones the same way pixels work on a screen, a monitor. The drones are pixels now in the air. And the smaller you make those drones, the more realistic things will look as they progress with this shit. So Wile E. Coyote doesn't shock me at all, dude. It really doesn't.
Hey, one night about 1989, 90 here in LA.
Right.
It was right before Vicky and I moved up to the Valley. I had been in the kitchen and it was really a hot night, and I had a bag of garbage I was taking out to the trash. I went to the back door, opened it up, and I started to step out. Suddenly in the sky, I looked up, there was this huge damn thing in the sky moving. And when I say huge, I'm talking to me, first blush, it was like watching a goddamn battleship, and it was lit up. And I stopped, my breath caught in my throat, and it took me a moment to realize, oh my God, that's the Goodyear blimp. It was the Goodyear blimp. Okay?
Oh man, that would have thrown me too.
Yeah, I will tell you, Newsweek is reporting that the Russian airspace was closed down because a UFO was seen there. They're calling it a legitimate UFO was seen in a certain part of Russian airspace. Newsweek is just reporting it right now. I got a thing on that. But these, I mean, you could make these holograms right from drones, and can you imagine how you could screw up the enemy's mind with all this stuff? I mean, closing down airspace and everything else. I mean, psychological warfare is part of a battlefield nowadays. That's all part of it.
You know what the CIA and Special Forces did in the Philippines back in the 70s? You know, there was a huge insurgency going on there. I believe it was with was it Huck? H-U-K tribesmen?
Oh,
and somebody back at CIA headquarters in Langley decided we're going to use a little paranormal on them. And they went out there, and Special Forces and their Philippine allies that were with them, I guess they were also SF qualified, started capturing these Huck tribesmen and bleeding them and then hanging them upside down from trees to make them look like they were attacked by vampires. Yes, vampires.
Is that what inspired you
Yeah.
What?
to write your vampire story? Because
I
that's
couldn't tell
interesting.
I couldn't tell you what it was. I did tell you what gave me the hook for the book, though, didn't I?
Yes. But I was just curious if that led, because that's interesting. I've never heard that before. They were called Hucks? That's crazy.
I think they were Hucks, H-U-K, kind of like the Moro tribesmen back at
Well,
the
see,
turn
we
of the
do,
century.
a lot of people don't know that we still have special forces over in the Philippines fighting against Islamic extremism in that country. We have been technically at war with forms of extremism within Islam, including all the way back to Tripoli.
Well, also in Africa, we've had special forces in Africa doing the same thing.
And we've got secret combat going on all the time. People don't know this. Our first experience with the Moros was at the turn of the 20th century, and it's what led to the M1911A coming into existence. Because
originally just the 1911, it didn't become the A1
it didn't become the A
until about 21.
Yep,
1921 or so.
The 45 automatic came about because what was happening is the Moros were going up into these trees, and then they would tie machetes into their hands, and they would jump out of the trees onto the soldiers. And even if you turned and shot them in midair and killed them, they would still fall on you and kill you, or kill a soldier, or wound them grievously with those machetes. And I got to tell you, that was one of my biggest nightmares in life, is being cut by a machete. Those things horrify me, and I've seen people killed by machete, and it's just awful. And so they were like, "How do we do this? We got to have a gun that can stop these guys." And they discovered that the 45, because the 45 is a big round, and when it's got a slower payload or a smaller payload, it goes slower. So instead of going to pierce, it goes to punch. And they discovered that with the 45, they could actually spin somebody and flip them in midair.
One of the things about the 45, though, the round tumbles, and that makes it so much dangerous.
It's so much slower. That's the thing. It's two things are going on. And I tell people with the 50 cal too, it's the same thing. So much gas gets put in front of it that a lot of times 45s won't go through you. That you'll find the slug in them because it's designed specifically to knock the shit out of you, kill you, but also knock the shit out of you. And it's the one gun, as I was raised by my dad, is that it's the one gun that'll do what Hollywood loves to show, where somebody spins when they get shot. You get hit with a 45, it's going to spin you. It's not just going to drop you.
Not only that, it doesn't take many, like the FBI, and Don knows this, 9mm rounds, you can hit a guy 4, 5, 6 times. He's still not going down.
It's BBs versus a real bullet.
Right.
Because 7mm, 9mm is really not very big. It's like the 38. You hear 38, well, that's a good size. No, that's right there in the same area. You're not talking big until you get to 44. And the 44 is a hell of a slug.
Well, 357 Magnum, 124, 125.
That's the grains in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the grains, not the bullet size.
That will cancel your ticket.
Brighten your day. It will brighten your day.
Yeah, it will cancel your ticket. But
by the way, there's different versions of the 44 too. The 44 Magnum. And if you remember in one of the Dirty Harry movies, he had the automatic Magnum.
Yeah.
And a guy went out and tested it and I was watching his show on YouTube. Amazing video. And he shows the difference between that round and the regular 44 Magnum. And he hit a steel target with paint on it. And you can see the damage that the regular 44 did. And then that automatic, which is a shit gun. It's a piece of shit. Jams all the time. Locks up.
Hey,
terrible gun.
But they are making it again. They corrected their mistakes.
Oh, really? Because it's got a slide problem.
Yes.
The slide would lock all the time. And it would start to move forward and it would get jammed on the bullet in the magazine. and not push it up into the barrel. That was one of the problems. I was watching this video, and it's really good. But he showed the damage at that 44 Magnum for that pistol. It's a specific version of the Magnum. I forget what it's called. One's an ACP, and I can't remember what the other one is. And man, same size bullet, damage is intensified.
I'll tell you, Gary, Don, the most amazing bullet I've ever seen that will stay in the body but will do unbelievable damage is the Hydra shots. I don't know, they were very popular back in the 80s with law enforcement. They had the Hydra shots, which was a hollow point with a torpedo in the middle almost.
So what would happen? It would completely collapse, or what was it doing?
It would spread out like a mushroom, but there was a point to it. And that point would penetrate, would spread out and act like a buzzsaw. And it would just tear everything up. And they wanted to do that because the FBI got in a big shootout back in the 70s. I think it was, Don, do you remember the Florida shootout with
Miami? The Miami shootout.
And they were shooting these guys with 9mm. With I don't think they were hollow points. They were actually full metal jacket rounds. And these guys were not going down. I mean, they were hitting them, and they lost 2 or 3 FBI agents in the shootout.
They made a movie about that, Chris.
Yeah. And so they started changing ammunition. And this ammunition that came up was called the Hydra Shock. And this Hydra Shock, we watched experiments on this, and we went, holy cow, that hits anybody. Because they didn't want...
Vicky's cooking again.
They didn't want anybody to shoot a person more than 2 or 3 times because it looked bad. You know, people will say, oh, you shot him 10 times, 12 times.
Well, this is a problem, too. I want to point this out because I got 2 cops here, okay, retired law enforcement. One of the things that I complained about was how, specifically in New York City, you're expected to mag dump when you fire. If you're going to fire, you fire everything, and you empty and reload. And because they were talking about that kid that got murdered. It was an accident. A really bad situation in a doorway. He was innocent, and they were like, how did this kid get hit so many times? And I said, if you want to complain to the government that created this rule, that if you fire your weapon at New York City cops, and I can't remember how long this lasted, if they ever stopped it, that if you have a pistol, you fire all rounds. If you're going to fire, you fire all rounds and empty. And that's how that kid ended up getting hit so many times.
Do you know why they created that rule?
I have no idea, but that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I'm curious what you guys thought of that.
One of the reasons they created that rule is because bad guys were starting to wear body armor. Oh. And there's 2 they started doing. Is one, they started saying, listen, you need more than 2. What they were teaching is you fire 2 rounds, you evaluate. If the guy is still standing, you keep going until the threat is neutralized.
And eventually that evolved into just empty on them.
Let's not forget that back in those days, the standard police round was a 38 special.
38 special.
Yeah.
Okay. They were not 357s. They frowned on 45s. When I was a detective and I worked some undercover, I carried 2 45s. Now, the reason I carried
You're like
2,
the Shadow.
Well, no, the reason I carried 2 is, unfortunately, unless you got an extended magazine for it, it only holds 7 rounds in the magazine.
Right. 6
and
in the magazine and 1 in the pipe. Yep.
If you have 1 up in the tube, you only have 8 rounds. And guys were starting to carry 14, 15 round 9mm. Okay, which, hey, it may be a 9mm, but that's a lot of firepower.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's totally true. But it's ridiculous because, look, I hear idiots out there go, less lethal, maybe you'd shoot to wound. And I'm like going, you just said something dumb. And here's why that's stupid. Because no government, local to federal, wants the lawsuits that will come from intentionally wounding somebody.
Yeah.
It's shoot. If you have to shoot, it is shoot to kill.
Gary, you can't do it anyways. Do you know how hard it is
to hit a
shoot
yeah, it's hard
moving
enough to shoot
target?
somebody in action. Yeah, I know. It's hard enough to shoot somebody. Let's wing them.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna shoot him in the shoulder. Yeah, I'll shoot that gun right out of his hand. Oh,
I'm
my
going to say
God.
this in combat. Don knows this. I'm certain that his wound was accidental. It was probably meant to be center mass, but got him in the ass. Right?
No.
No?
I got it in the ass from an exploding artillery round.
Oh, I thought you got shot.
I took a round right above my heart from an SKS carbine.
Now that was a good shot. Scary. And I'm just
And
curious. Did it stay in
emptied-
you or did it go through?
No, it stayed in me. And I emptied my 45 at the two sappers coming through the wire. They both went down. And I presume I took them out, but I wasn't sure. And I sure as hell didn't feel like going and checking. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, did I kill you guys? You still there?
Well,
Man.
one thing that people have to understand about police work, it is one of the most dangerous things you could ever do in life, because in the military, you know that you're going in and doing battle. In police work, you have to take a step back. You have that in the back of your mind. I might be doing battle, but a lot of times you got to make them make the first move. Where in the military, you don't have to do that. But it is so difficult to understand the dynamics of lethal force, because you're in a fight for your life. You're in a gun battle, and Don knows this. I've been in gun battles, and I'm sure, Jerry, you've been in gun battles.
I've been in one firefight, and it was friendly fire.
Yeah.
And people were in the wrong positions and misunderstood what was going on, and that's it.
Yeah.
And
but
I
once the
pissed
rounds
myself.
start going, the only thing you care about is saving your life. You're not thinking about anything else about putting the bad guy down. So until you understand that philosophy, that you're scared and things are going to happen that you may not want to happen, but they're going to happen. You have to take this type of stuff with a grain of salt, and that's what the public has to understand.
They won't, though, and that's the sad part of this is you're going to always have that percentage of the public that don't understand. Actually, to be honest with you, one motherfucking thing. They know how to put food in their mouth and how to breathe, and they're not even sure how they do that. And
well, they also know how to take a dump.
It's like, how is this happening? What's coming out of me? Anyway, I do want to point out really quick that I always tell people that the best cops I know are also former military, their prior service, and the reason why is they learn the first stage of the Constitution by defending it. We take that oath. That oath is for life, and we take that shit serious. Whereas I find a lot of my cop buddies that never served previously have a tendency of not understanding the difference between the U.S. military and law enforcement. And there's a huge fucking valley, like Grand Canyon gap between what they do. Yes, they are a first line of defense in your local established village, town, whatever it is. They live there. They're part of that citizenry. And what a law enforcement officer really is a duly authorized citizen. They are a duly authorized citizen to detain, arrest, and use lethal force and pursue. And that's what they are. They're still part of the citizenry. And they kind of forget that, and you'll hear things. And nothing pisses me off more than when I hear somebody in law enforcement say, citizen. It's the first fucking thing that'll piss me off with a cop buddy of mine, if I ever hear him say it. Because in the military, we are taught that every citizen outranks us. And that's why we call them sir and ma'am. In the military, we're taught that. You are the lowest form of amphibian shit. First thing they teach you in basic, but as process goes by, is every American citizen is a sir or a ma'am to you. And don't you ever let me catch you calling him anything else. And that was beat into us in the military. I don't know about you guys when you're in, but we were taught to respect citizens. And too often in law enforcement, we see this where that gets lost. And the other thing that I hate seeing, and it's why I left being a paramedic, is my sense of empathy. I feared losing it because as I was exposed to more and more, my ability to connect with those with whom I had to deal with, other citizens that were being injured or killed, that I was going to detach because I had a partner that was like that. And he scared the shit out of me. Loved the guy. I loved him. But he was completely emotionally detached from what he did. And I'm like, but that's why I got into this. I want to give a shit. And we see it in law enforcement too. Fire rescue. These people just don't even see people as people anymore. And the only people they recognize are those with the same patch or with the same badge or whatever it is they do.
And that's when you retire.
That's what I said. I said, when you start to feel that way, you should leave because you are in a career where empathy is essential. And empathy also requires you to, what Don talked about, and I know you talked about, you have to have that built-in bullshit detector. You got to know. But when you start seeing every single person that way, you've lost connection. And really, one of the most important things of what law enforcement is there for is for defense against crime.
Let's look at how things have changed here very briefly. 2020, okay, riots all over the United States. Black Lives Matter.
Oh, those assholes, BLM and
okay,
exactly BLM.
Cop stations, police stations got overrun and burned to the ground. The cops were ordered to leave.
That's not sedition.
The cops were ordered to leave by the civilian authorities. Do they realize what they just did there? They turned society over to the mob.
Anarchy.
Yeah.
True democracy. That's why I tell people we don't live in a democracy. Stop saying that. Because a democracy doesn't work the way our government works. We live in a constitutional republic. That is a republic that is protected by a book of laws that says how everything is governed. And without that, we'd be chaos. It is. And whenever I hear people go, we need to overturn the Constitution, I'm like going, you want chaos. You want anarchy. Every day you got to vote on something. And worst part is that it's like if Billy has a bicycle and you need it, they can vote and give you that bicycle. That's part of democracy. And vice versa. You have your bicycle, you don't get to own it. The people vote on it, and you'd be made to give that bike up. That's democracy. Stay the fuck away. The democratic method works within a republic, but democracies fail, just like communism, socialism. They all fail. Republic is the only successful form of government. I want to read these chats, guys, because we got some starred ones. Anima loves the way you say huge, Dawn. She goes, here it is. Huge. Huge. Cavatino Cavalryman Che said something I thought was really neat. Term leatherneck, of course, came from Marines wearing leather armor. That's right. They had tortoise skin on their collars, terrapin. And they got the nickname leathernecks. That's right. So they got jar heads because you can actually unscrew a Marine's head if you didn't know that.
God.
I was going to say something, but we only got 3 minutes, so go ahead.
I thought we had to stop calling them jar heads because they found out you could put something in a jar.
You can put something in a jar. Oh my God, John just shit on the Marine Corps. Everybody, he lives at. No, I'm not gonna. Recent war with Muslims caused Philippine army to start carrying combat bolo with a cutlass-style handguard. That's interesting. Che, of course, is infantry all the way. Good dude, man. Love him all the way. I love you long time, Che. And Clint Eastwood threw the automag into the water at the end of the movie. Yes, that's true. He did. Because it's a piece of crap. A dive crew had to go find it. No shit. I didn't know that. Holy crap. I wonder if the Highgate Cemetery, this one I started because of you, Don. I wonder if the Highgate Cemetery attacks were just kids like the Cocaine Bear attacking tourists.
Absolutely. Yes.
Because you investigated that shit. John Ostains agrees with Anima. Also, I think I heard about a new show coming out about Highgate Cemetery. And of course, Anima Confucius says,
nobody called me.
I think mythology is our way to try to understand these things. Absolutely, I believe that
We have
Star
1
Trek
minute.
is also mythology. I'm hurrying. Can't wait to hear Don talk about Skinwalker Ranch. Don Ecker shows what lies in the hearts of men because you're the shadow, dude. 245s. Come on, man. Come on, man. What the fuck is that bullshit rule with the shooting? I'll explain some of it later, but I think you really put it succinctly, Chris. Started taking things like PCP2. PCP, man, scary shit. Big difference. I saw enough of 3 years of MP service to know I don't want to be a civilian cop. Don't blame me, man. It's a tough job, man, especially in the current environment. Nobody wants to be a cop anymore because it's not respected. And you should always respect the men and women in blue or suits that have badges.
Well, sooner or later, you're going to see a resurgence of vigilante justice.
Well, wait.
And
we have to
with
go.
my book,
Wait,
Vindicated Inc., will be
dude, we have
coming
to
out.
go.
We gotta
Chanel
go.
is-
We're late.
Chanel, no, it's okay because I said let's push it to 57. So
No,
we are
she
coming.
said 56, and
Oh, I didn't
she's-
see her response. She's
Yeah.
so pushy. Get us out of here. We
She's
love you guys.
great.
See you next
I love
time.
Chanel. She's
I do
awesome.
too.
See
She's
you this
awesome.
afternoon.
See you in a little bit. Yeah.